Thank you so much for coming to our first Clinical Trials Toolkit series of Spring 2020. If you're interested, we do have 3 more upcoming ones. So there is a schedule there in front of Tanya. So if you want to grab that on your way out and register for the other ones. I know some of you guys register from the get-go and I love it. So thank you for that. And if not, I'll be sending emails. You know how I am. I like to send emails out to remind you. So thank you for coming today. Sarah's going to talk about new initiatives and continued growth. So we're very excited to have Sarah here with us. For those of you that may not know, I know the back table doesn't know this, right? She's your senior IRB coordinator for you guys. And that's for the Human Research Protection Program here at WVU. Before she joined the IRB, she worked in a clinical trials research unit in the regulatory team. Prior to coming to WVU, Sarah was an adjunct professor at WVU Junior College, and don't hold this against her, she did teach middle and high school English. So, Sarah also previously served as a service coordinator, supervisor, and quality assurance manager for a state service program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. For those on Zoom, if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to type those in.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Yes. The back table can hear me. Rosemary. Rosemary keeps me in line. I don't know if everybody knows the IRB folks that are in the room. I'm going to embarrass them all. We have Valerie and Melissa and Rosemary. How many of you know Rosemary? Yes, one of you. She is our continuous improvement manager, and Melissa and Valerie are both IRB coordinators. So they're here to keep me in line in case, especially Rosemary, in case I say anything wrong, because that's what she does. All right, so we are going to talk about some new initiatives, continued growth at the IRB. There's been a lot of changes, and I've only been there 4.5 years, almost 5. And there have been a lot of things that have, hold on, I'll let them in. We're welcoming. A lot of changes that have occurred in that time. It's not clicking. Oh, here we go. I was going the wrong way. Yeah. Okay, so our objectives today: demonstrate knowledge of the HRPP, the WIRB, and the OHRP. You'll hear those acronyms a lot. Those are actually what they mean, okay? So how many of you know what the HRPP is? Yes, a few of you. Okay, so it is actually the program which is the umbrella for the IRB as well as the office where I work, okay? So we have individuals that are solely HRPP, which is kind of the institutional side with the OHRP. And then we have those who serve in support of the IRB and the members and board itself, okay? Changes in the Office of Human Research Protections, ongoing projects and growth.
Dr. Bunny was sharing this earlier, so I'm not alone. But we can all agree that there's a difference in, hey, we need to talk, versus, hey, we need to talk. So there are many things that go into how we perceive things, our nonverbal and our verbal. Even our communication style.
Okay, they're muted now. And some upcoming projects and our growth trajectory. Okay, so we're going to go over some history and terms because everybody needs to know why the IRB is important, right? Yep. Okay. Procedures, processes, and pitfalls, growth, new initiatives, and any question and answers about the IRB. So what is the purpose of an IRB? Protection of human subjects. That's what we're here for. We are under these 3 sets of regulations: FDA, OHRP, and the Office of Civil Rights. Why are we under the Office of Civil Rights? Don't look at the screen. What do you think? That lovely language that changes every once in a while for your Hipaa authorization. That's why, okay? The IRB also serves as the privacy board in research, okay? IRB responsibility and authority. I'm not going to read all of that, okay? But we do serve as the IRB of record for the entire university health system, as well as the VA down in Clarksburg, all the affiliate sites everywhere across the state of West Virginia. And we find out in the news when they find a hospital. So that's how that happens. Authority, require review and monitoring, submissions, RNKC, approve, disapprove, or require modifications for approval, continuing reviews, changes in methods, any of those. We can go out and observe consent. There's been a few studies where our members have went out and observed the first consent, maybe subsequent thereafter. Suspend or terminate approvals. Once an approval has been granted by the IRB, that cannot be undone. The institutional official, Dr. Fred King, can stop the study from occurring at the institution. Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. But it cannot be undone, okay? So who really needs the IRB? I'm sure everybody here has asked that question at some point in time, including myself, okay? These are just a few of the things that have occurred in the timeline of how IRBs came about and how we ended up with the common rule, which is the 45 CFR 46. I know everybody loves regulations, right? So, how many of you have heard of the atrocities of Nazi Germany? Yes, okay. So this is where we start seeing, well, there's been a lot of things that have occurred, but this is where we mark a lot of the beginning of voluntary consent of the human subject being absolutely essential to conduct research, okay? Leading up to Belmont, you'll hear us talk about the Belmont Principles a lot, so we're gonna get there. Thalidomide study, 1950s. The drug was given to pregnant women with no informed consent. There are about 12,000 babies that were born with severe deformities. Led to 1962, drug manufacturers must prove effectiveness before marketing. Tuskegee syphilis study. How many of you heard about this? Yes. And I think actually President Clinton may have been the president that issued the public apology for this. They conducted the study to 1972, but the cure for syphilis was found in the 1950s. So they knowingly were continuing the study, deceiving subjects, and not offering them a cure. Kind of bad. Pretty bad, really bad. Declaration of Helsinki, 1964, World Medical Association. This gives us the basis for what? I'm not going to read everything up there. You guys got copies, right? Excellent. Sorry, Debbie was on it. What is the basis for? It's up there. GCP. Everybody loves GCP here, right? Yeah. By the way, it's good for 3 years. Your GCP training is good for 3 years. All right. National Research Act, 1974. That is a whole lot of information that I hope you read in your spare time. But the end result, formation of IRBs and Belmont, okay? Uh-oh, might have went too far. Where'd I go? Let's go here. Did I skip a slide? Oh, okay. I went back once. So, the Belmont report is the basis for why we do what we do, okay? How many of you have submitted a flex application? And what does it say in that letter? According to the principles of the Belmont report. Don't quote me on that, but it talks about Belmont. I don't remember the word for it, verbatim. And this is one of our board members constantly refers back to these three principles in everything that he discusses at a board meeting. Dr. Davis, many of you know Dr. Steve Davis. This is kind of my shout out to him, okay? But this is where all of these elements fall into the Belmont principles, okay? And you'll see those as a part of a criteria for IRB approval. Summary of historical events. Did I already go there? Man, Debbie, you're gonna have to keep me going here. Where am I going? Oh, back this way. Oh, summary, good, okay. So throughout all of these different things, and there's many, many more. There's probably 20 I could have thrown in here, but nobody wants me to talk more than an hour, right? Valerie. We've worked together for a while, it's okay. long while. Seems like an eternity most days. Getting Val. We ended up with Belmont report, our Code of Federal Regulations, and the formation of IRBs. The common rule, which is what our regulations are very often referred to as. 1991, 14 other than DHHS, signed on to adopting a uniform set of rules. Okay, there were 3 additional subparts in this, which is where you see the federally defined protected vulnerable populations. Do those look familiar as some of the questions in KC? Okay. Now, why do you think that there are 3 additional subparts? Yep. Why do you think that they're specially brought out and defined as vulnerable populations and afforded special protections? Okay. He said issues with consent. So, thalidomide study. Who was that done with? Pregnant women. Pregnant women. But that's good because the other vulnerable population, they talk about socioeconomic, minorities are accounted for, all of those different things, okay? Prisoners, they are very easily coerced into research, correct? If you're going to be able to leave the facility to go anywhere, you are going to go, right? Okay? And children. There are many, many things that have been done over the years for research to children and also those that are cognitively impaired, okay? So what is human subject research? We debate this a lot ourselves, okay? Must be research, must involve living individuals about whom an investigator conducting research, you're obtaining information, okay? Identifiable, private information, or biospecimens. Types of IRB submissions. You see a few more than what's in KC. It's because very often we don't show any of the other types of submissions. However, they are becoming much more popular. Valerie's very upset about that. The IAs, SIRBs, reliance agreements, those have definitely jumped up since the release of the SIRB requirement, which we are struggling with a little bit. So we have NHSR, which is combined with our flex model. Okay, that was done so we could implement it sooner than later. Flex has been very beneficial, streamlined a lot of submissions. We'll get down to that here in a few minutes. We have exemptions still, expedited, full board. We currently have full board non-clinical trial and clinical trial. Now, that is not what that means. I'm sorry, but it's not. Non-clinical trial just simply means there's not an attached protocol. Clinical trial means it's a clinical trial and you have an attached protocol, right? Full board designation is not made off of a clinical trial. It is made off of it being more than minimal risk. You can have a clinical trial in any of the protocol types, okay? It does not have to be full board. We have our central IRB, which is routinely used for commercial IRBs. Recently, we have added in that so we could have them documented and limited event reporting completed on them. The IAAs and the SIRBs that are more than minimal risk, you will need to do a CIRB submission in the system for those. We have the flex model, which is combined with NHSR. We already talked a little bit about the IAAs. These currently, if they're not more than minimal risk, are still tracked external from the system. They have probably tripled in the time that I've been at the IRB. So 4 years, triple submissions, one person handling all of them. It used to be me. Now it's not. Sorry. Tissue and data repositories. Many people do not know that the IRB does handle the tissue and data repository registrations. Okay, those are approved by the chairs of the committee, and they go through some upper administration. Then we can send you back an approval of those things. Prep to research, we actually collaborate with Wes Kimball on these. They're submitted through iLab. We do have a paper form that you can submit, but that's where you're going to get the data anyway. So that was an attempt to streamline that process for you a little bit. And then we have approval in principle. Before I took over as senior IRB, I saw none of these processed, the approval in principle. Since then, we've had probably 4 or 5. So something we really didn't need a process for, we have developed a process for the submission of, there's an application, a determination letter, all of those things, some new SOPs. So there we go on the beginning of the changes. Okay, so overview of changes. Office personnel, IRB chairs and board members, procedural and form changes. Here, if I come in. Internal process changes, new review types, regulation updates. So, how many of you remember Lilo? No Lilo, everybody knows Lilo, right? Okay, so Lilo was at the IRB, she kind of still is, for almost 30 years. You don't see that very often at all. There's a lot of things that Lilo has done that no one will ever do. She is a great credit to the IRB. I used to submit to her as well, so I know some of the frustrating points, but she worked very, very, very hard, and our review times are only as low as they are because of her. So great credit to her. She is still working as a temp. You'll see her reviewing the exempt protocols, some of the expedited, along with Valerie. Valerie is also reviewing expedited, and she's doing our QIP administrative reviews. In less than 5 years, we've had 3 directors. Miss Gretchen came about 2 years ago. I think it'll be 2 years in April or May, and has done a lot of things since her time. We've lost 5 IRB coordinators. I am the only remaining in less than 4 years. Less than 5 years, excuse me. We lost our Blue Board chair and vice chair who had been on the board. The Blue Board chair had over 30 years of IRB experience. He was also military. He served as chair of the Device IRB committee at Walter Reed Medical Center before retiring and becoming the chair of our Blue Board, which also handles all the VA protocols, by the way. And then our vice chair of the Blue Board was the director of nursing here at WVU. She left and was one of the longest serving board members. She'd been there since 2006, 2004, something like that. So she took a lot of experience with her, and our Blue Board chair, who is also an attorney, took a lot of knowledge with him as well. So, IRB members, we have lost a great many and also had to replace a great many. So if you know anyone interested in IRB membership, please let us know, okay? Because our research is only growing and review times are only faster when you have more people to review it, correct? Yes. So additions, I mentioned Ms. Gretchen came about 2 years ago. She is the new director of OHRP. New staff additions and positions. I'm the new senior IRB coordinator. I replaced Lilo. I was able to train with Lilo for about 1.5 years, 2 years before she left. 3 new IRB coordinators, Val, Melissa, and Joe, who is holding down the fort over the hill for us. And Miss Rosemary, our new quality improvement manager, who keeps us all in line. She does. She's like a mom. Aren't you, Rosemary? We love her. So we have a new Blue Board chair and vice chair. We caught a few people at a weak moment. They were very, very happy on a Friday and asked them to return to leadership on the chairs committee. So our new Blue Board chair is Dr. Vaglianti. And the vice chair is Dr. Steve Davis, who is our second longest serving board member at this time. He's been on there for, I say, 18 years. And Dr. Vaglianti was a newer board member, but really took a great interest in it and has done a great, great job. IRB members. We have probably 10 new IRB members that are in training in some way, shape, or form. We have added a lot of floating alternate expedited members that train intermittently, okay? So we have someone who's able to step in and come to board meetings, and also with the growth of the expedited reviews and whatnot, be able to work on some of those to relieve some of the full board members, be able to review a lot of the more than minimal risk studies. Oh, I'm getting a little click happy. Okay, so changes along the way, other than staffing. Common rule updates. So you saw 1991, right? Everybody saw that. We just finally updated the regulations in July 2018, and they were in full effect January 21st of 2019. So that's a long time to wait for some regulation changes, right? Okay. Approval in principle, we talked about that. Wasn't something commonly used. But we have developed a process in which to account for that, as it is a part of the regulations. Continuing review cycles, those have been adjusted for those protocols that are initially approved following January 21st, 2019. Everything else, we put a lot of this on us, so forgive us if we mess it up. We're trying to save people a lot of time and energy. So instead of requiring everybody to fall under the new common rule, we chose to allow investigators the choice. You can stay under the old regulations, or you'll have to update everything to the new templates, all of those different things, and comply with the updated common rule. So we opted to allow investigators the choice, but now we are tracking that on our end. So forgive us if we mess up at some point in time. Icf template changes. All new templates went out, I want to say in July. Is it July? Dania knows. She looked at them. I know that. She audited me too. It's okay. Audit is a strong word, isn't it? Reviewed and provided quality feedback. Okay. So how many of you have seen the new ICFs? The person who said they're garbage is not here today, so that's good. Literally, that happened. But the point of them is to provide guidance that was missing in a lot of the older things, right? They said they were garbage. That's all I got. Huh? They are pretty, thank you. Let's drive. No. But it allows for you to see the COC language, which you may not have been able to find earlier, right? Okay, how many of you know what the COC language is? Certificate of Confidentiality. Okay, it's in there. All of our template language from legal counsel was updated. Our Hipaa language was updated. All of those things came out with the new templates, okay? We updated the cover letter to where now you have an example cover letter, and it tells you, there's another page that tells you what we want to see as a part of a cover letter. So all the elements that we'll request as a part of a cover letter, okay? New instruction pages, new combined templates as well. There's a parental and child assent combined template. HUD review. How many of you have submitted a HUD? Humanitarian use device. No one? Some of you have. We changed how we do process on that. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but it's easier for the investigator. New SOPs, Rosemary's been on us for all the new SOPs. We have taken what is published right now, has been in revision since it was published, okay? So we are about to roll out the new SOPs. They are a whole different look, a lot of the same content, clarified content as well, and a lot more information that you'll see on some of the things that maybe were not so clear, okay? Submission deadlines. This just happened on Wednesday. I should probably wait to the end where you guys can throw stuff at me for this one. I won't though. So there's no Snickers in there. Sorry, don't throw anything then. One of the things that with the growth of research and not a lot of people to do the reviews. Our board members are struggling getting those reviews done for the convened committees because they not only review the full board protocols at the convened committees, they review every protocol type except for those that the admins review, okay? That's a lot of protocols. We have almost 3,600 active protocols in KC as of 2 days ago, okay? So minus 4, and then you'd be at 3,600, okay, plus 4. So we have moved the submission deadline to 10 business days, okay? It used to be 5, so it's gonna be 2 weeks. So instead of the week before, it's gonna be 2 weeks before, okay? Now, as always, if there are extenuating circumstances, please give us a call and we can ask the chairs if we can add it to the agenda. But that was at the request of the committee, okay? Because we want our members to be able to conduct a thorough review. We want to make sure that we're able to do what we need to do as an IRB, okay? All right, and please keep in mind with that all of our members are volunteers. None of them are paid to do what they do, okay? So bear with us on that. Okay, so OHRP changes. We implemented the flex model, IRB fees. Everybody loves that, right? Money. Forms and guidance, call management. I don't know how many of you have tried calling and haven't gotten us directly. Padma hates it. Quality improvement program has completely been redone. Data use agreements, and then the CRB collaborative research, okay? So we'll get into the specifics there. I may have broken it, Debbie. Oh, so click at me. Oh, come on. Okay, so the flex model. How many of you submitted flex? It's a much shorter questionnaire, okay? It's pretty concise. It's also combined with the NHSR, so you're gonna get one or the other. It is for non-federally funded research. It must be minimal risk. It was attempted here. We piloted it in October 2018. I think it's been a success. It's my opinion of it. It reduces burden on investigators. Admins have a good bit to review, poor Melissa and Joe. But it does, it reduces the work for our board members. It's reduced the questionnaire, which we're getting away from that, I promise, okay? It reduces the submission time, turnaround time, all of those different things. So it's been a pretty good success. Over here, you can see the cheat sheet for it. We're on, I think it's version 10. So we have, I think we were on version 7 before we actually went live, 6 or 7 before we went live. So we have done a lot of work. The board and the chair committee has done a lot of work in getting this put out. You can see that we have excluded a lot of the vulnerable populations. Prisoners, obviously. Children are allowed. Pregnant women are allowed. Everything in Flex is automatically awarded a waiver of documentation of consent. So you do not have to get a signature unless there is a child involved. Okay, at any time, the admin reviewer can send it to one of the chair committee members if they are uncomfortable with it being in Flex, but it is overall, I think it's pretty good. How many of you have done Flex and like it? Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, so IRB fees. In 2018, the IRB started billing for expedited protocols as well as for the category 8 full board reviews. So those full board continuing reviews that do not have to go to the convening committee. Previous to that, the only thing they billed for was initials, full board amendments, and the full board continuing reviews. We are now trying to support ourselves a little bit better, okay? So in July of 2019, we increased and added fees. Our fees are still well below industry, so your commercial IRBs, a lot of other institutions. We took a lot of time and compared what we were wanting to increase to the commercial IRBs, as well as IRBs in the Big 12, other larger institutions, whatnot, okay? Training and education. There's been a complete revamp of the quality improvement program. You'll hear us refer to that as QIP. Okay, one of our board members, who's also on the chair committee, worked with us over the summer to develop all new materials. We have went from one consultant who conducted QIPs 2 a month to 5 consultants doing 2 a month. We piloted this last month, completed the first one, and went very, very well. I was able to attend as the admin on that with the board member who actually developed the materials. Another training education initiative that we have implemented along with Dr. Fornerizio and HVI is the Research Community Forum. It's just a time for everybody involved in the research community to come in. We bring in different groups around the institution. It's kind of a non-formal get-together of everybody to hopefully not yell at each other, but just discuss things and best practices of how to handle submissions, how to handle submissions to OSP, which I know nothing about. So if you try to call me about that, I'm not gonna know. Call Paul Fetty, okay? Tell him I sent you. Event reporting. Poor Tanya. So one of the things that I think everybody struggles with overall is the event reporting. What has to be reported? What's it defined as? What does it look like? Who does it go to? How do I submit it to the IRB, right? When do I submit it to the IRB? So when I read the SOPs while I was in now the crew, I'm sorry, I still call it CTRU, was the event reporting. I struggled with that in the SOPs. So when I went to the IRB, we did a lot of changes in that regard, okay? So how many of you remember the 3 forms? SAE, AE, you've heard so, deviations. There were 3 of them. We combined them into one, and it became the unanticipated event form, which has now evolved into the research-related event form, okay? And why did we do that? The event, you're gonna give us the same information about the event, right? For the most part. And the IRB has to make the same 3 determinations off of all of those events. So why repeat the questions on 3 different forms when you can put them on one, right? Okay. So we did that. There is a new SOP coming out that is much clearer, much more concise than what we currently have. Change in limited event reporting. So previously, on all the studies that were run through a central IRB, we would receive the notification that there was an event that was submitted, and it would sit on our agenda with our board members for 6 months. Okay? And how the system is set up right now, that is a manual tracking. So if you didn't remember to put it on the agenda the next month, it was gone, okay? And for what purpose? You could not make a determination unless there was some immediate intervention needed, okay? But the study team has typically already done that. There was no point in letting it sit there until after the IRB had made their determination, because we had waived our IRB review, okay? So now, and you'll see on the next slide, and it's in the letter, thanks to Tanya, who told me to correct that. Thank you, Tanya. Now you will submit that to us following determination from the IRB of record, okay? There is guidance that's been put out on event reporting. There's a nice little chart. That chart was my attempt to understand it myself. So that's how that came about. There's a workflow chart for CIRB submissions in general, which you'll also see here in the next couple slides. AE reporting flow chart, and definitions, because our board members look at them just like everybody else. I go back to the definitions and say, well, does it really meet that definition? No, it doesn't. Okay. So we have that as well on our website. New forms that have come about from it. Research-related event form. I guess I could look over here instead of turn around. Complaint form has been updated. We added an admin section. So for instance, if I'm out of the office, Melissa can look at it and say, oh, okay, these are the people that I need to notify as a part of this complaint, and within so many days, okay? So that was more for our usability here for us. We also did some deviation tracking log templates, AE/SAE log templates. Those were mainly for investigator-initiated studies, okay? So just kind of a helpful resource. But also, one of the things that really helps board members when you submit is having a summary sheet. I know that a lot of you are in Encore. Encore produces a wonderful report of all deviations and all SAE AEs for the lifetime of the study, right? And you get the document exactly when it was reviewed by the IRB, right? Yeah. Reviewers love that. Gives them one place to find everything. They can identify trends. So that form is an attempt to help with that. So it's beneficial for both the IRB and the study teams. Okay. So there were a lot of changes with event reporting, and you'll get to see the new SOP soon. Right, Rosemary? Yes. Okay, so this is a lot of information. I know that. But I just wanted somebody to be able to print this one page and stick it on their board and know what to do. Okay, so have all the information one place. We currently, of course, I need to update this because Quorum is no longer separate. They are now part of Advara. Okay, so all of these, kind of like with the cooperative groups, they had all these different cooperative groups, and then they combined them into 5. That's what the IRBs did too, all the commercial IRBs. So Quorum is now part of Advara, but you have your Irb Copernicus, WCG, Advara, NCI CIRB. I know there's a BMT CTN IRB out there. There's a bunch of different ones that are trying to start up. Okay, so we also have IAs and then the single IRB. That's the SIRB here that you see. If you have questions about that, there is information available. So say someone calls you and says, hey, we want to do a Smart IRB with you. How many of you know what Smart IRB is? How many of you didn't know what Smart IRB was about 6 months ago? I mean, not new, kind of. Yeah, it has definitely jumped. We went from 4 when I handed it over to Miss Valerie back there, and she hates me for that. She's nodding. To how many do we have in there now? 25 maybe? Yeah, almost 30. And she has not been at the IRB that long, okay? Smart IRB is a platform for IAs. So instead of the paper form and you email it back and forth, now you do it in Smart IRB. I personally struggle with Smart IRB. Sometimes I think an email is just better. Simple. Because if you are the lead investigator on that Smart IRB, you are responsible for essentially another submission. Okay, so that's my deal with Smart IRB. They are working to make it better because a lot of people have said the same exact thing. How many of you submitted in Smart IRB and feel that pain? Okay, you guys are lucky. You'll get there though. Okay, so we changed the process to where now when it's identified that another institution, if it's more than minimal risk, or a commercial IRB is going to be the IRB of record, you now start the submission in KC, get a protocol number, and you reference that protocol number in your submission to Irb, Copernicus, or Advara. Okay? We have negotiated language with them, and that is a part of our stopping rules with them. I won't say they're perfect and catch it every time, but they're getting better at it, right? Once that is done, once you have your approval from the central IRB, you'll come back to us, submit in KC, so finish your submission, and you'll receive an acknowledgement letter from us. You need to get your acknowledgement letter from us before you start enrolling, okay? Now, one of the questions I get all the time about Central IRB is, do I have to use the IRB watermarked version that comes out of KC? No, we're not the IRB of record. That consent form does not require the IRB watermark, okay? Because we did not approve, we acknowledged. That's neither a confirm or deny, all right? We just saw it. Because KC also accounts for other institutional measures, radiation safety, IBC, UA, okay? So facilities and whatnot, right? There is an increase in that fee. It used to be $1,000 and now it's $1,500, okay? Where am I at on time? Oh, look at me. Okay, we already talked about that. Consent forms, everything completely revamped. We took away a lot of the pain points for people. So no longer do you have to list the co-investigators. You can, if you want to. That reduces amendments greatly, okay? Because how many times have we submitted an amendment and forgot to change the co-investigators on the consent form? It was supposed to just be a simple amendment, right? Real quick, but we forgot to do that. So now that does away with that. Initial and date is removed at the bottom of every page. It is no longer a requirement. You can put 1 of 20 and it accomplishes the same purpose that that initial and date was set out to do. So the board moved down on that point. What's some of the other changes? The text boxes, the check boxes, excuse me. At one point in time, they required an initial line, and it had to be, I think, right before the signature. They have moved from that. You can also do check boxes, and they can be throughout the form, okay? Investigators know how to obtain informed consent. So we wanted to give them the freedom to make it flow as they wanted to. All right, so new templates, change a PI letter. This was actually done in conjunction with CRU. So changing investigators. On a cancer study, you have a 32-page consent document. So what's better for the subject? I send you a letter that says, hey, the PI that may or may not be your treating physician is no longer the PI on the study, and this is the new person. Give us a call if you have questions or you don't want to continue on the study, or you sign a 32-page consent document again. So this template is on the website and has been approved by the chair committee. So it makes sense. It's best for the subject, right? They still get the same information with less burden. Patient letter. This is also a new resource that I haven't finished yet, sorry, but it's pending approval from the chair committee. So if you have a subject that is out of treatment for 2 years and they came out with a new risk and they still want everybody to know about it, this is a risk notification letter, okay? That you haven't talked to them in 2 years, right? Except for the 1-year phone call, maybe, right? So less burden for them. They still get the same information, okay? We're just changing a little bit off of the, you have to re-consent every time on that big, huge document. Delegation of authority log, also for investigator-initiated studies, okay? Hipaa waiver form's been updated. We now have the pretty check boxes where it's much easier to identify the Hipaa, the 18 different identifiers. We also added information about genetics, alcohol, those different disorders on there if you're for Chestnut Ridge, if you're doing studies looking at those materials. We changed our name. That's big, right? We are the Office of Human Research Protections. You're going to have to put WVU in front of that because the federal government's also OHRP. Did it that way, but OHRP, Office of Human Research Protections. So we are no longer ORIC. The 3 departments that were, kind of 4 departments that were under ORIC are now their own little departments, okay? And yes, ma'am, you will. Okay, our website is currently still the same. That is one of the projects that we are working on, is our website. Yeah, we're not perfect. We're trying. I still see consent forms from the old common rule that have that name in there as well. I mean, it's still on our website, right? So it's going to be a process of changing that as well. Tissue data repository form has been updated. Some more information added that we needed to have in there. And also some process changes that we're working on for Melissa. Approval and principal application. Oh, I went too far. Continuing reviews, elimination of the 1-year wait period. Previously, everybody's off treatment. And just because it had been closed to enrollment for a year, it had to still go back to the convening committee. Yeah, we changed that. So as long as it is closed to enrollment, even the day before the board meeting or the day before the, the submission deadline, I see it, okay. And all subjects are off active treatment and outside of that window, it can be an expedited category 8 review. So that 1-year wait period is gone. Approval period extended based on the updated common rule. We'll see that in just a second. Special topics, deception. All deception studies used to have to go to the convening committee. Now they do not. As long as you are providing a debriefing plan and giving them the opportunity to opt out with their data once you debrief them, okay? If you are not wanting to give them the option to opt out or providing a debriefing plan, it will go to the convening committee still. Suicide and suicide ideation. All of these, as soon as you said depression, suicide, any of those things, it went straight to the committee board. No longer does it do that, okay? Actually, depression is even allowed in flex now. That's been another change. But if you have active suicide ideation, the convene committee is required to look at your plan to address that, okay? But if you are just asking questions about suicide in general, those different things, it doesn't necessarily have to go to the convene committee, okay? Genetic research, everything went to the board, not anymore, okay? It can be reviewed and expedited. Those categories are based off of the risk level, not necessarily the topic of the research, okay? Vulnerable populations, everything with kids went to the board, not anymore, okay? Prisoners, we have a prisoner consultant that will look at it and determine if it can go into another category of review, okay? But there are a lot of prisoner studies still are reviewed at the convene committee. HUDs. All subsequent reviews following initial approval at the convene committee can be reviewed by expedited review measures. Okay, so your CRs for HUDs no longer have to go back to the convene committee. They go to one of the chairs, experienced board member, and they are processed out as an expedited review. Approval in principle, we talked about. Submission deadline, we talked about. The application's new. We talked about that too. Okay, here's your continuing review cycles. Now keep in mind, this is for those under the updated common rule. Okay, this is not for those that have not migrated to the updated common rule. You can see the difference. Exempt went from 3 to 5. Expedited is 1 to 2 years. The rest, no change except for flex because it's new. All right. KC, we've updated a lot of questions regarding informed consent. Hipaa questions, all the letters are new. UA node is no longer a hard stop, okay? IRB exchange, CRB processes have been updated. City administrator agreement, an information request is new. Those come to our office through email. Let's see what else. Number wise, so December, and you can just see the growth a little bit in the past 3 months. December 2019, active protocols, there were like 3,285, I think. January, 3,300, I think it was 74, if I'm remembering my sticky note correctly. And to date in February, I ran it 2 days ago, and there were 3,396. And that's with expirations happening daily. Okay, so we're removing a lot, and there's still a whole lot more coming in. Past 3 years, initial approvals. Now you kind of see this decline right here. That's because we told people don't submit, okay, because of the changes with the updated common rule. So they either need to get it in way before or way after, okay? We had 141 initial approvals from the last gold board meeting to this gold board meeting that happened last Wednesday. That's just initial approvals. We had almost, I think there were like 94, 95, maybe 96. Continuing reviews approved, amendments in the 90s, expirations. You can see there's a lot of expirations happening, and closures kind of remain the same. Okay, so that's from February 2018, February 2019, and February 2020, and that's to date. February's not even over yet. New projects, we have KC in the cloud, which is going to be the new KC questionnaire. It's no longer going to be based on protocol type. That'll be decided on the back end. We spend half our time arguing about protocol type, right? So why are we going to do that to everybody? It's going to be one smart form. Okay, we have the pre-screening questionnaire pretty much done. And then it's just building the questions off of that. New tracking capabilities for IRB members, as well as research teams. Less manual processes for IRB staff. All of our tracking is currently done. Excel spreadsheets outside of the system. I probably have 6 that I have to keep up with on a daily basis, which is not very fun. Complete overall of the website, ADA compliance. Rosemary's been working on that very hard. New forms, they are very user-friendly. I give her a hard time about the forms because she's changing all of my forms, but they are very user-friendly. I think you all like them. And AHRP. IRB is going to be slammed with AHRP accreditation. Our submission deadline is in June. So Rosemary has blocked off a lot of our time in preparation of that. Keep giving her a hard time. You'll see a lot of the SOPs come out right before. So we make sure everything's good to go, and you'll see them being published. And hopefully we'll have a site visit early 2021. We've been accredited since 2008. We were reaccredited in 2016. And so hopefully we'll have the same result. This is staff contact information.